our community settings and our community groups are quite hostile to women. Sometimes it's we're up here and your understanding is down here and we're trying to lift you, but they don't recognize that. It's almost like you're an Asian female, you can't really have much. Don't ever compromise yourself for anybody, and don't dumb yourself down for anyone ever.
Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
On this week's episode, we wanted to discuss women in power. Because, as you know, from many of our podcasts, we're like, come on, women, where are you? Especially you South Asian women, we need to really push you forward. And we want to find out from Bal Sandhu, our next guest, as to what she thinks about why people aren't being put in those positions. Is it something from our side? Is it something from the outside of the South Asian community? So let's talk to Bal Sandhu. Hi, Bal. How are you today?
Hi, Taj. Hi, Bal. I'm well, thank you.
Before we start, can you just let us know what you do, what your positions are, and then we'll get into a bit of conversation as to why we're discussing this topic today.
Okay, so I work full-time for the NHS. I'm in management. I run a diabetes specialist service in the community. I manage a large team of 18 people, and I'm charged with developing the diabetes service across the borough in Hillingdon. So that's my full-time job. I'm also a mum, obviously, and a wife. And I'm also the General Secretary of Khalsa Aid, and that in itself is a full-time role. So yeah, I don't get a minute to myself.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you're a mother and wife as well, because that in itself is a job as well. And I don't think it gets appreciated enough.
No, and being a mum, yeah, it's full time, and being a wife to someone like Ravi is very challenging,
time consuming. We won't talk about that.
But I thought that might not be appropriate. So it's very challenging at times, yeah, and obviously with all the.
Can I just say, Bal, don't worry, it's not just Ravi. Being a wife full stop apparently is challenging.
Yeah, it must be, and especially in our community because the expectations are just way out there, and I think to a certain level they're unachievable by any one human being. So
let's explore that part, because obviously you, in your intro, you have done 3 parts: the work that you do in the NHS, yourself as a mother and a wife, and then we'll go on to the work that you're doing in the community as well. So let's explore what you've just said. Why do you think it's challenging being a South Asian woman? What is the challenge?
It's multifactorial. So one thing, and I know we discussed this initially when we talked about this, you can be as successful as you know as anything in outside of the community. So you can be well respected in your profession, at work, you can be holding a high position and have lots of responsibility. But when you go to any social functions or you interact with your own community, you're given the label of that's someone's wife, that's just someone's daughter. And I think women, and I've seen a lot of very, very successful women, they get undermined a lot in our community. And it's almost like, well, she's still a woman, you know? And I think our community settings and our community groups are quite hostile to women. And my personal experience, the more successful a woman is, the more she can be ostracized in our community.
I think you're right. I completely, because just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a man in the South Asian community, and it was really funny the way he was speaking to me. It was like, oh, okay. And it was very rude. And I was thinking, say that was, for example, a white woman stood in front of you. I know he would have done been smiley and all nice. It's the lack of respect from certain individuals, which is quite sad, to be honest, still in this day and age.
But can I ask, what? Sorry, I know you're going to come in there. What do you think is causing that? Because, like you said, Bel, people could be at very high positions, but you feel like that people are still ostracized for being in those positions. What both of you have mentioned, times that you've seen it happen or it's happened to you. What do you think that the cause root of that is?
I don't think there's any one thing, Bal. So Taj has just said that if there was, say, a woman from a different community, not necessarily it could be a woman from a different community, she might not be as accomplished as you, but she will get more respect. And instantly, if you're in a room, and I have experienced this so many times, if you're in a room, you might be the person in that room that has the most amount of professionalism, credibility, be the highest achiever, have the most applicable knowledge at that time to that scenario. You might be the one that's holding everything, but the gaze from the people that you're trying to interact, it will automatically go to the male.
But can I just ask about on this point, and sorry, Taj, you know, Ravi is very well known in the community. Do you think that has added to your perspective of that, or did that happen even
No, no,
before?
no, no. That's been in
Okay.
places where Ravi's not been present. So it's not
Okay.
necessarily about being in the presence of a strong man. I've done work outside of Ravi's involvement, and I was involved in a project that I don't want to talk about the project too much, but it was I had to engage with a lot of the elder generation,
Hmm.
a South Asian Sikh community, and they just didn't want to listen. And if I did talk to them, if there was a man with me, so one of my volunteers perhaps went with me, who was looking up to me for guidance, just because I was leading on the project, they would engage with him and not talk to me at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me and
Okay.
Bal have experienced this as well, where we've had a meeting and what our opinion was just blind, not looked at. But then when a male person put something
The
up, it was like
same.
yes, 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 yes.
That's a really good
And
idea.
Can I ask you something? Do you think it's different from if you went into a meeting with people outside of the South Asian community? Do you think your positions aren't acknowledged there as well? Or do you
Oh no,
think that there's a
absolutely
difference there?
not. No, 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 no,
Okay.
no, no. It's completely different. I mean,
Okay.
I've had meetings with people that are not of the South Asian background, and I feel that you're just valued for what you bring to the table.
Hmm.
Whereas
That's
if
really
you're
interesting.
having the same discussion, you go in armed with the same knowledge and the same approach, and say it's a room full of South Asian men. Even with some of the younger generation, I have to say, it's almost like, oh, you're just there to fill a quota.
do you think it's a power struggle? So if you allow females in the community to have that voice, it's almost like the men in the community, and this is, I would say, throughout all the
They need something.
South Asian community. If you give the woman the power, then it's almost like, oh my God, they might take over.
Take over. They might take over.
Well, we
Like,
can
for a
do a
better
lot more
job.
than I was going to say. We can do a lot more than men can, to be fair. So there, I can see the fear there.
100%, 100% agree with you there. One woman can, really organise a whole room full of men, no doubt about it. And we do achieve. We just naturally, the way women function, we are achievers. We do get stuff done, and we multitask, as you know. We talk about
But
all the
not
things that we have.
but not putting men down completely,
No,
because
no, no.
I work in quite a lot of different communities within the South Asian community, and quite a lot of the support that I've got is from men, and they've been like, we're really proud of what you're doing, and they're pushing
Hmm.
us forward
Hmm.
with changing suits, whatever we're doing.
Hmm.
But there aren't women in, for example, places of worship, in committees. The
Yeah.
women aren't sitting in those high
No,
positions
no.
because it's
Very
always the men that are leading.
It's a very hostile environment for women. Believe me, I've been there. I've tried. It's a very hostile environment.
What was your experience with that?
It was just very hostile. It was horrible. It was like, as if you're speaking a completely different language. You're talking about things that they don't even recognize are issues. Safeguarding, for instance, was one of my big projects. They don't even recognize it as an issue. There's a lot of male privilege in our community, a hell of a lot. And if you do try, you can go in subtly, you don't have to go in challenging and be all, I'm a feminist and I'm going to change the world. But you can go in thinking you're going in on an equal platform, but the, it's very, very challenging. Oh, that's so and so's wife, or that's
Yeah.
so and so group of women. Put them in the langar hall. Let them. And it's like, no, we're here to discuss at a committee level with you. We're not here to look at what you're cooking and cleaning. We're here to discuss with you on an equal basis. If not equal, sometimes it's we're up here and your understanding and knowledge is down here, and we're trying to lift you. But they don't recognize that. It's almost like, well, you're an Asian female. You can't really have much to, and like Taj said, sorry, just coming back to that, if you were of a different community, even if you didn't have that much to contribute, you would be put on a pedestal immediately. Have you seen them in the gurdwaras when you get a visitor from a female visitor from a different community?
That's what, yeah, any
They're all,
community I've seen that, yeah.
and it's just like, oh my God, this is cringe.
And yeah, I've seen that with quite a lot of South Asian communities where if someone from the outside comes in, they are put on that pedestal. And why is it happening throughout the whole South Asian community? Are we just built like that? Or is it from our roots?
But then let's change this around, because one thing you said earlier, Belle, was the fact that you're finding it even in the younger generation. That's quite shocking, because with the older one, you can see culturally it's been like that when they were, whether it was India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, wherever they were from, that was culturally how it was. So they brought that, they may have brought that into the UK as well. So they've grown up like that. Obviously, things change with experience. They may not change. But what's going on with the younger generation then? Why are they acting like that then?
Do you know also what I think is? I think women enforce that and embed that further
Yeah.
in the house. It's what's going on in the home. It's what we're doing culturally in the homes, and that's embedding that behavior. And I've had discussions with some younger, very high achiever boys. They're boys to me, in their 20s and 30s. And
They'd like to be called men, Belle.
men, young men, so some young high achieving young men, very well known. And I've had discussions with them, and then when I talk about it and they reflect on it, they're actually like, yeah, that's right. I have had male privilege, and I understand now. And the way they interact with women at work would be different, how they're interacting with women in their own community, just because they think this is what's expected. But when you have that discussion and you give them a little bit of insight, I have seen change.
Do you think women are their own worst enemy? Because I've seen quite a lot of women, they want to come forward, but they're almost scared to come forward.
Yes,
So they wait for someone else to stand up and then go to that person and then feed,
yes. Because
funnel through them.
it is a hostile environment for women. It really is. If you're being as somebody who's assertive, it's good to be assertive at work and have an opinion and get things done. If you bring that into your cultural setting, then you're seen as being a bit aggressive, a
Yeah.
bit out there, a bit challenging, given a wide berth because you might question what somebody is doing.
But how can we change this? Because you've said something really interesting. Because those conversations you had with those young men was actually you've sort of changed their mind. They've sort of raised that awareness. They've been like, okay, I get what you're saying there. How do we change that for the future? Because if that's still happening, that's really worrying.
I think it needs to start with women. It needs to start with women empowering the women in their own settings, whether it's at home, where you go to the Gurdwara, the women need to understand that their roles aren't restricted to cooking. They do have a place around the table where it's decision making about what's being done strategically in their community. They need to have a place at that table and a voice. And I'm afraid it's going to probably take a couple more generations to just push that.
I feel that it can be done. We can educate people. For example, and I think I've spoken about this before as well. Our father, he came from India and he was typical, no, girl needs to get married really early. And then he's seen things in his life and he's pushed all the girls in our family and our brother to achieve. I mean, Bal was on the Godwara committee. She's been a counsellor. He's pushed, push, push.
Good. Mm.
So the change is possible.
But Taj, part of that change because it happened because of experience. Obviously, in our family, we went through divorce, we went through hardship, whether it's health, whatever it was. And this is why I said, look, people might have come from East, but because of their experiences, they hopefully might have changed. But it's those people that haven't learned from those experiences. What can we do? Because obviously, that's like pushing a door that's just won't budge.
Sorry, Bao, it's also learning, and by the sounds of it, you had a progressive male in your family.
Mm.
So your
Mm.
father. So my dad always used to say to us, "Never think I can't do something. Go out and say, how am I going to do this?" And he
Yeah.
always said, "There's no such thing as can't do." And I'm the eldest, and I've got two younger brothers, and he treated us all equally. My mum would sometimes say, "Oh, I don't think that's appropriate for a girl to be doing that." But it was
Yeah.
like, Dad would be like, "No, I want her to go out and achieve and stand on your own 2 feet." And they gave me that grounding and firm footing that's seen me through life. And I've never had to look to anybody else. I've been able to be successful in my own right. And that's why when I see women who have got so much potential, but they don't have a voice, I find that really painful. and someone said to me, what does equality look like for you? Is women empowerment and all this. I think they're just empty words, really. And equality to me doesn't mean that you're above, it means that you're equal. And you shouldn't have to fight. And the day that we won't need a women empowerment day or a women's day, or we need to have equal rights for women, that's the day that we've achieved it. At the moment, it's all words.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's
Let's
not
talk.
about being superior, or it's about being equal without even having to look at someone's gender, just taking them for what they have to offer.
Let's talk about your job. You've said you manage, was it 18 people?
Yeah,
That's a lot of people. I mean,
it is.
how do you, this is going to sound like a silly question. How do you do it? Because obviously,
Not
whatever you're
very
learning
well.
at work.
Obviously not very well. Now,
Don't say that.
my,
We're asking for positivity, Bal.
my manager won't see this, it's fine. No, but I do it well. I mean, I have a very, very good team. I'm also currently studying for the MBA. I am 13 months into an MBA. So it's been very challenging 3 to 4 years, because obviously we had issues with Ravi's health, and that was very, very taxing. We've come out the other end of that, thank God. And then studying at the same time when I took on the MBA was just when he started his journey with the surgery.
What are you doing an MBA in? Just out of interest. That's me being nosy now, Bal.
Managing and leadership is for the NHS. Yeah, they've sponsored it, so I feel I have a sense of responsibility to complete it. Just done the modules, and I'm about to start the research project. So how do I do it? They're all senior clinicians, so they've all got, they're not hard to manage, so everyone's just doing their own thing. It's more the service, and as you know, it's in diabetes. There's a lot of changes happening in diabetes, so it's just making sure that we're ahead of the curve, we're doing best practice. And yeah, it's just second nature. I've been doing that for 27 years.
And tell me, with the fact that you are a South Asian woman, how did you get there? If someone came to you from that is young,
Yeah,
and
you
said,
being
"Look,
South
how
Asian
do I?"
already.
Because you're inspiring. You're in a leadership role. If someone from the younger generation from the South Asian community said, "Oh, how do I do this? How do I get where you are?"
Now that you're asking me, I'm just reflecting. It was hard. I had a lot of knockbacks. But there is a glass ceiling in the NHS, no doubt about it. I was at a certain level for many, many years, and it was demoralizing because I was performing well above that. And I was thinking, what is stopping me from going further? Why am I not in that management role? Why am I being kept here? Development and just going out there and building links, building networks, being seen, and sometimes even now, there were situations where I was often the only brown face in the room, and I used to sit there and look around and think, I am the only brown person in this room, And now it's improving, and I think I'm fortunate in the trust that I work for. They're very progressive, and they are actively looking
Do
for.
you feel like it's pressure because you are the only brown person in the room to act in a certain way or to be in a certain way?
If I'm honest, I think there were times where there was pressure to act a certain way, to fit in. I think I did do that at times, just like, okay, I'm just gonna dumb down this bit of me at the moment because it's not the appropriate setting.
Not smelling a torka when you go to.
Well, that's definitely a good thing not to do. Um, I I've got a wicked sense of humour. Yeah, and I think most South
You're
Asian,
gonna have to make us laugh now, Bal.
because of the challenges that we go through, we just see things through a different lens. So
Yeah.
there'd be times where I'd be thinking, "Oh my God," and I'd want to crack a joke, and I thought,
I've been there.
it's just not gonna. It's just
Inappropriate.
guys, right? They're just gonna look at me like I'm odd. Whereas if that same joke I would in an Afro-Caribbean setting, for instance, or with Asians, they would get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's been times where I've sat there and I've looked at them, and for them, this is normal. This is how we function, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this is all a load of. I'm not saying,
Bleep. Yeah.
there were times where I'd be like, right, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to behave myself, and yeah, I think it's learned behaviour, and I think there is a lot of behaviour modification that's occurred over the years. But it was hard. But I actively try and develop people. So when people in my team, I'm always pushing and saying, develop yourself further. I actively, if I see young girls, especially from our community, going out there and really putting themselves out there, I'm actively pushing them. I mean, my daughter, she's 21, she's training to be a midwife. I've pushed her so much. And at times I've pushed her out of her comfort zone, but she's come back and said, actually, that was really good.
But do you think that's actually something from the South Asian community? Though, would you not agree? Because from the South Asian community, we are very much, we want you to achieve. We want you to be that doctor. We want you to get into whatever roles it is, but we want you to get higher up on the ladder. I mean, I'm assuming just from the sounds of how your parents were and how our parents were is very similar. And that doesn't happen in all households. But would you not say that's something from our community? Give
I
us a
think
plus.
I think for our parents' generation, I don't know how old your parents are, but my parents' generation, education was the big thing, and it was the key to moving forward.
Yeah.
When they came here, you've got to remember they had nothing, and all they wanted to see were their kids on an equal setting with the people that they were looking up to when they landed here. And my parents really did emphasize it was just a given that we would be going to university and we would have professional jobs of whatever capacity. And for us, for our children, it was a given that you will go to university. There's no option. You have to have that. Our son is into cars and he was like, I don't want to go to university. I want to engineer, do the. I was like, you get that bit of paper, you get the degree. After that, it's up to you what you do. I don't care if you go and stack shelves as long as you've got an education, right?
But that's not what happens in all of the communities, and that's what I'm trying to say about it. It's actually, although we have said, there are negatives, and we're very much, our organisation is looking at those negatives as well. So we're not going to say anything against that. However, there are very much the positives where pushing our kids is very much, a very big part of the South Asian community. We are trying to push through those barriers, and the fact that you've said you went through knockbacks and there's a glass ceiling, and there very much is within all industries. We as a community are still trying to break those glass
Yeah.
ceilings, though, aren't we?
We absolutely are. We absolutely are. Just, I've got to come back to what I said earlier, that yes, we are pushing our children, male and female, to get out there and do that. But we also need to transfer that to within our community settings as well. If you're going to push your daughters to be successful, be independent, be professional, and have a voice, have an opinion, you need to allow them to be like that in your own cultural setting as well. And a lot of women live a dual life where they are these empowered professional women that are going out there making big decisions and being the leaders, but in their own setting they're just sort of sitting there looking pretty.
I think that's
This
such
is
an important point. Yeah.
This is a really interesting conversation. We had this conversation with Rupinder from AWMB, and
Oh
she
yeah.
said very much
Mm.
a similar thing, where it's a case of the reason perhaps we're not getting to those tables is because of that sort of way we've grown up. We've been conditioned to be like, okay, just keep quiet and just
Seen and
carry on.
heard.
That's it. Now, can you talk about the work that you've done? So we've covered two aspects of your life, but very much you are involved in a lot of community projects as well. Can you tell us firstly what you do yourself? And also let's go talk a bit more about what you mean about transferring those skills from the professional to those community settings as well. So what is it that you do in the community, Bal?
So, as I said, I was involved in a Sikh organisation similar to what you've done with the Gurdwara committees, I think you said, Bal, and doing some other bits for the Sikh Council I was involved with. And we did a big piece of work around safeguarding in faith communities, and the reception for it was really poor. And I know for a fact that if a man was doing that, that would have got a lot more kudos and a lot more drive behind it. That's the first time I've said that in publicly, so that I might get a bit of backlash for that, but hey ho.
It's fine, don't worry. We say a lot of things that people probably don't like.
A lot of investment went into that, and it was cross-parliamentary support. We had Dr. Bernardo's NSPCC on board. Just didn't go any further because there was a group of women doing it. And secondly, with Khalsa Aid, obviously, I'm the general sec and I'm on the trustees, one of the trustees on the board. And that is a lot of work. Khalsa Aid's grown a huge amount over the last 10 years. We're now global, we've got chapters everywhere, and there is a hell of a lot of work that's involved, to the point where it's just difficult to keep up with everything. So I work a 9-day fortnight just to enable myself just a day just to get on top of what's been happening. We have an office in Slough, HQ, which has got a number of staff in it. You know, things are running, but there's so much potential. And the pressure that we feel from that aspect of my work is the greatest, because the Sangha has an expectation. And often it keeps me up at night because I think we could be doing things so much better, so much bigger. It's just not enough hours in the day to dedicate to it, to push it where it could go.
Do you appreciate how much respect that you do have as an organization? Because, you know, from the outside, we don't realize that you're having these thoughts of, oh, we could be doing so much more. We could be doing, because from what we're seeing, it's a case of, oh my God, how
I
do they
wish
get
I could do
to
that. Yeah.
That's the volunteers, the passion. It's the passion that drives Khalsa Aid. The people are just, it's the backbone. The volunteers are the backbone. It's now just a platform for people to go out and do Siva. But there is so much more that could be done. There is so.
Can you explain just very much? So we're well aware of the work that Khalsa Aid does, but we do have listeners from outside of the South Asian community and also outside of the Sikh community that might not be aware of the work that Khalsa Aid does. And I think, you know, we'd appreciate to learn a bit more about how hard you do work as an organisation.
So Khalsa Aid is now 24 years old.
Yeah.
It's a
Has it been that long?
It's been that long. It's an international NGO now. We're registered with the Charity Commission here and various other chapters. So we've got Canada, America, Australia, India is one of our biggest. We do humanitarian work, so go and find us. There's a lot. Homeless feeds. We've got Lungan Aid that runs in the UK that supports a lot of homeless projects around the Midlands, especially. That's a huge project for us on UK soil. The flooding that we had in the UK, we were very active. Our teams were out active then. Turkey earthquake recently has been a big project for us. That's ongoing, and we're working with refugees from Syria that are living in Turkey. So that's a big bit of work, and there's big need there. India, we've got the flooding. We've got, I think at one time we had like 300 volunteers out on the ground, led by Amarpreet, our director for South Asia. I mean, at the moment, we've got a team out in Hawaii from the USA. They're out there supporting people. Really nice story, actually. We had somebody, a Sikh, as the start wearing guy, that lost everything. His house got burnt to the ground. He didn't even have material to tie the star. So when Omar Singh, our director from the USA, landed, that was the first thing he organised for this guy to get
Wow.
his stars. And there's a video on Instagram today. He's just received it today. So from big projects to small projects, we try and make a difference wherever we can, I think is the easiest way to say it. So wherever there's need, we will assist. In India, we do a lot of medical projects.
So, Taj, I know you want to ask a question here, but Ravi is very much the face of Khalsa Aid. You know, you see his face, you know it's Khalsa Aid.
Yeah, he is.
But
He's anonymous with it. He's the founder, so he's going to, but yeah. And he's very vocal.
but he is very vocal about it. But we do need to appreciate, going back to what this episode's about. Now, you as the General Secretary do a hell of a lot as part of Khalsa Aid as well. Now, that doesn't mean just as part of the organisation, but you are also Ravi's wife. And we don't appreciate, and we've been in the same position of, you know, I know, for example, my dad was in the Godvara a lot when he was in the committee, in which case my mum had to take a big burden on. Can we talk about that aspect before we talk a bit more about the organisation and your role as the General Secretary? How is it being, I don't know if I should ask, Ravi's wife? What is the responsibility as being his wife?
It's hard. It is hard. It is hard. And I think it's been so long, and we've got just used to being the way that we are, that we don't know any different. And I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I was saying, actually, sometimes I feel sorry for the kids because they haven't known anything different. They've grown up in chaos. There's always something going on. There's never been a period of calmness. There's always a big project going on. There's stuff going on internally with Khalsa Aid that needs to be resolved. So if we're at home, we're on the phone, we're having meetings. We've never actually had downtime. The only time we got some downtime to ourselves with the kids was when, I don't know whether you know, Surprise Surprise did a thing where they
Yeah.
revamped Ravi's car and they organised a 10-day trip for us doing Route 66 across America. That was the
Yeah.
only
Oh, I don't know.
time that we had ring fence time as a family, just doing nothing. And we made a
And
conscious.
how did you find that?
It was nice. It was nice. It was tiring, but it was nice. But
Nice is a very, I was saying, nice is a very neutral word. It was nice.
It done the job.
it was fun. I mean,
You obviously prefer doing the work.
do you know what? Do you know what, Bal? I think there is that element of we can't sit still. We
Yeah.
can't sit still. I think it's just maybe we're running on adrenaline, on cortisol, but we are just constantly on the go.
Do your kids ever say, like, for example, my son, I'm constantly looking at social media, trying to update things for our organization, and they're like, they've banned me from using the phone when I'm sitting down doing work with them. Has that ever happened with your kids where they're like, right, you need to switch off and just focus on us?
Constantly, constantly, constantly. They're like, "Can you just put
And do
things
you,
up?" And then you feel bad. You feel guilty, right? My daughter
yeah, I
said
was going to
to
say
me,
the pressure.
I was having a conversation with somebody about Khalsa Aid, talking about something, and she said, "Your cortisol levels must be through the roof." And I just thought, actually, she's right. They must be, right? Because we're just constantly in this heightened state of got to get this done, got to get that done, and it's either phone calls, meetings, social media stuff. So I mean, Ravi's really good. He's recently started just putting his phone when he gets home. He just puts his phone to one side. So he's taking that
That's
time
good.
out. So it has to be a conscious decision of I'm not going to use the phone for an hour. But there's
But
constant.
I like how you said, Ravi's done that, but you obviously haven't done that. Sorry, Taj.
And what about your mental health? How do you look after your mental health? Because if you don't have time out,
Do I
we
look normal
all,
to you?
at some point, if we're working hard, we have burnout.
Yeah, do I
So
look
how are you looking
normal?
after yourself?
No,
You look good.
I don't do
You
it.
look great.
You look amazing.
I don't do it very well. I recently just signed up to a gym again. I'd stopped pre-COVID, and I try and get a walk in every day just to get that time out. But recently, that's been taken up by phone calls as well.
Bal, can I say, you have mentioned during Slough, and I'm well aware because I'm not too far from you.
Ah,
So you know that was a call for us to at some point meet. But in the local gym, they have some fantastic classes. I'll tell you about them afterwards,
oh, no, no.
though.
Now I've joined
You
Maidenhead.
sound like Bal.
Yeah, I've joined.
Maidenhead. Okay, so everyone follow Bal in Maidenhead.
No, no, I'm actually driving half an hour to go to the gym. So yeah, I just like to get a swim in every now and then. That helps. But yeah, my mental
Fair
health
enough.
is great. I don't think so. I do sometimes. I just sit there and think. A few months ago, I was really at the point where I needed a break, and I took a solo holiday. I went to Madeira for 4 days on my own, and it took
Oh
me
wow.
3 days to actually unwind.
Really.
God.
Yeah, but
Mm.
it was good. I
That says a
Would you
lot in
not?
itself.
Hmm?
Do you not think you should repeat that in that case? Because obviously you know that you've got a lot on your shoulders, whether that is work. And what
Definitely.
are you going to do about it? I feel like we need to push Bal to go on holiday again. Ravi's going to phone and say, "Can you stop telling my wife to go on holiday? There's
Oh,
lots of
no,
work to
no,
do."
no. He'll be like, yeah, go
But
again.
sorry.
No, he'll be like, go again. No, I've planning breaks through the year so that it's forced. If it's booked early in the year, then it's forced.
Can I ask you something? Because one part that we always miss out on is housework. We never talk about it. Look, at the end of the day, the housework needs doing. Do you get time to do any, or do you just
look,
get someone in? Because a lot of people do.
look at the clutter behind me.
No, it looks bad. No, but seriously, I mean, we laugh at it, but there is so much housework. It's non-stop, and that's both for male and female. That's not putting it on you or. But do you get anything done at home then? Because you're constantly on the go.
I just do it as I go along. I have had to get help, so I get somebody in once a week to give the house a good clean. She's lovely.
Fair enough.
Recently, just started.
I was going to say, never imagine here because I'm not too far. I'll clean the house because you do so much more.
We've got 2 dogs as well, so yeah.
Oh God, why? Why would you? That's not an animal person. Okay,
Um,
so that's talking. We've spoken a bit about your work, your role at home, and obviously, Ravi is the face of Khalsa Aid, but you are very much. We have to push men sometimes to do work at home as well. But there is a lot. What about your work with Khalsa Aid? Because you are the general secretary. What does that mean? Because you have a very big role there.
so it's me, and we have trustees as well. So it's not just our trustees are very good, all of them. We do meet regularly. We've got the meetings in the diary once a month, but there is a lot going on. As I say, we've got all the global chapters that need support. We've got the India stuff. I couldn't even quantify how much time I spend a week on Khalsa Aid, but I'm on call all the time. So there'll be things going on, at work. If I get a minute, I'm just checking my emails. I do feel like I'm doing two roles at the same time, and it is exhausting.
I feel tired just listening to you.
I agree. I'm getting a bit of a headache there. I'm like,
Thinking about it. But yeah, no, wake up in the morning, check my work emails, check the Khalsa Aid emails, and if there's anything going on, what needs to be done, scheduling calls in, scheduling meetings through the day. My work's very good. I've now got somebody who supports me with the admin stuff, so she's fantastic. She manages my work diary, so that's fine. And we've got staff in the office that manage our Khalsa Aid stuff, but they'll often be waiting for decisions and stuff, and they're chasing, and you're just thinking, oh. And then I'm thinking I should step back, give somebody else an opportunity, but it's finding that person who can take on it is a big responsibility, and just making sure things are done and holding people to account all the time is difficult. It's challenging.
so going back to a comment that you made earlier in regards to females in the community, we need to put South Asian females on the same footing that they would be having in their professional lives.
Absolutely.
What did you mean about that? Because you've got a massive role within the community. How can we push other women to also be empowered to do those community roles, and also make sure that they've got the respect for doing those as well?
Can I share something with you that was a moment for me where I realized that it's probably the women in our community that are putting other women down.
Yeah.
So you talked about Rupinder, the work she does, it's amazing. That we need more of that. We need more of women creating a platform for other women to come forward. Khalsa Aid was invited to a women's empowerment lunch. And this lunch was hosted by somebody who works in Parliament with the Conservative Party. And Ravi wasn't feeling so great, and he said to me, it's a women's empowerment thing. It would be really good if you went. Common sense, right? Okay, let's go.
I thought so. I was like, why was Ravi going to go in the first place?
It gets better.
Okay.
So I attended. It was middle of the day. It was like 12 o'clock. Designer handbags, cocktail dresses, little bit bevied up. And I went, oh, I'm here from... They just looked at me. They were like, oh, we wanted a man. Yeah. And I'm like,
What?
oh. And they said, oh, we thought Ravi was coming. I said, Ravi's not well. Well, wasn't there any other man that could come? I said,
What?
Oh my
What?
God.
Wait, who said that? I'm sorry.
I'm
Not
not
good enough.
going to name when that person
Oh
here.
no, not who. I meant was it South Asian women? Was it? Who was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Not Rupinder.
I wasn't asking.
No,
Not Rupinder.
Rupinder would never do that. No, it was.
But I was going to say I wasn't going to ask for names because we don't do that on this. But we want to know the stuff around it, though.
No, it was somebody who's not that well known. Let's just put it that way, but has got a lot of money and works with Parliament. So anyway, and I was like, oh well, we thought being a women's empowerment group, you'd appreciate a woman. And she turned around and looked at me and said, oh well, I'll do it myself then. I'm the General Secretary of Khalsa Aid. She's going to talk about Khalsa Aid herself. And I just...
And did you slap her, Bal? Come on, tell us you
Oh,
slapped
we
her.
don't encourage that, Bal.
No,
Of course, no, we don't. We don't.
no,
Of
we
course.
don't. Remember what I said
So
earlier?
did you?
Turn myself down. No, I went, okay then. I turned around and I went, I just thought, sod you.
Oh God! So she let you go?
Yeah. Just complete lack of respect, complete lack of, oh, it's a woman from Khalsa Aid that's attending,
I'm really puzzled.
I was gobsmacked for days, and then I phoned Ravi and I was like, "Ah!"
Yeah, I'd be like that. I wouldn't have waited days. I would have phoned right
why
then.
did you-
Like,
Yeah.
I
Why
would
did you
have
wait
phoned you.
days?
No, I didn't wait. I left.
No, man. Why did you wait days to phone Ravi as well? I mean,
No,
I'm on the
I
phone.
phoned him straight. I got in the car and phoned
Yeah.
him. I said, I've just turned up, and he was like, what the hell,
What did he say then? I mean, what was his opinion on it? Because I could, as a woman, and hearing that, you're like, isn't this the point we're trying to make?
Yeah.
But another thing is,
But
I found
that further embeds that behaviour of, you don't. And had I been a white woman,
yeah, I think it
please
would have been
come in,
different.
please join us,
It's because It's like your feelings, your status doesn't count. Another thing I've seen in the South Asian community is women being scared of, and there's politics every and anything that you go into. And you start discussing, okay, about certain things, like, oh no, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to do with politics. And literally you have their hands up. And you're like, but we need to start stepping into those
Yeah,
arenas, because if we don't, we're not going to go forward, and we're just going to let the men keep leading, and we're never going to get there. And what are we showing our children, the next generation, that it's okay for us to keep saying, oh no, I don't want to be involved in the politics?
absolutely, absolutely. And another thing I've just got to add that's just come to my mind is our community is terrible for bringing each other down. So Khalsa Aid does attract a lot of hate, and a lot of
Yeah,
it
I've seen that. Yeah.
absolute rubbish. I'm supposed to be living a real life of luxury with in a mansion with drivers and all sorts, and so far from the truth, I can't even tell you. The abuse that we get, they target Ravi, and when they're not getting anywhere, to get a reaction, they start attacking me. They'll go on my Instagram, take pictures of me and put them up and say, look at her. I went on holiday with my daughter last year. They took pictures of my Instagram of me. We were in Marrakesh and said, look at them having a luxury life on Thungat's money, and you just think, oh, so it and you can't win. So they use me to get to Ravi because, if he doesn't respond, they'll start taking pictures of me, and that's really low. That's really low.
Can
They've
I
even
ask?
started targeting the kids. So Amrit went on an elective to Kenya. Oh, not Kenya, Tanzania. And somebody posted on there, oh, look at them now pushing their kids to do cards aid work. And nothing to do
Oh,
with
that's
it.
lower than low. Okay, doing for you, that's low. But then with the kids, I'm sorry, there's no words.
So when you talk about what do you do, I think a lot of the time it's just being strong enough to be able to cope with that level of hate.
Yeah.
And that's why people will say don't want anything to do with this. I remember when Ravi and I first met, I said to him, I said, I don't want anything to do with this sort of active work. And now I'm just exactly in the middle of it all. But that's
But
the
then,
reason why, because there is so much hate, and it's, people are demonized, and if you don't think the way they do or you don't act the way they think you should act, you're demonized.
why have you decided to carry on then in that role? Because it is tough. Having that hate, and it sounds like when it goes to the children, it very much is on a
That
big scale.
hurts.
It's
Why
not an
have you
option.
continued?
It's not an option to back away, Bal, because as I say, the love, the trust, and the faith that people have, you you can't walk away from that. That would just be doing that so much injustice, and you can't let people down. I mean, when we go anywhere, the love that people have, it's just, I can't even tell you. People will come up to you and start talking to you and give you money, and like, don't give me money, don't. Just because they say, no, no, we trust you. And we're like, no, put it into the bank or do this, don't give it to us. But that level of trust, faith, and love, that's been earned over the years, not just by us, by Khalsa Aid as a whole. And you just feel you can't back away because you're letting all those people down. There's been so many times where I'm just like, God, I don't want anything to do with this. I just want to have a normal life. I just want to sit at home, and just go on holiday.
And then you realize that when you go on holiday, it's just nice.
But you don't, and then you think, and then you see the messages that people send you. I mean, when Ravi was having his surgery, the amount of messages that I got just saying, thinking of you, sending love. People don't even know these people. That you can't turn your back on that.
Throughout this podcast, like I said, we've got a whole range of listeners, but we have picked up on a lot of negativity within the South Asian community. And at this last bit where you said, well, actually, I'm not stopping this because of the love that I'm getting.
Mm.
This might be a really hard question to answer, but as a percentage, how much love versus hate are you getting?
Oh, I think 80% love, and the love is consistent.
Mhm.
The hate is in peaks and troughs, and I'd say that's probably at about 20%. And usually it comes, and it's the vengeance of it and the intensity that we have to face that with. And I think we've now got to a point where we're like, oh God, they're having another go. It's like that, and there's no basis to it. So you know, as an organization, Khalsa Aid is very open and transparent, and we really, really focus on that, and we do our best to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. You know, charities commission, our accounts are in every year.
Yeah.
Without fail, we get them in on time, and we go try and go down to as much detail as we can. We invest in staff to make sure that those things are done properly, because
Mhm.
you know someone
Because as a charity, you have to display all your
you
accounts
have
thoroughly.
to have, yeah, you have to have
Yeah.
good governance in place. But we go over, because we are solely funded by the public. We are
Mm.
solely funded by the Sangat. Um, we have to have good governance. Even if charities commission doesn't require it from us, we feel that we need to, and we are open to questions. You know, if someone came and had a constructive dialogue and said, "You've done this. What was your rationale for doing that? And can you please tell me what your salary costs are, what your admin costs are?" Da da da. That's a constructive conversation. But if somebody's just taking pictures of you, your children, and just making up complete and utter BS and posting it, that's hurtful. But we've learned to live with it, because these things are usually short-lived. And now we get people that support the charity and know us, not just us as in me and Ravi, just know the charity. They are now responding, and they give the answers back to these people.
Yeah.
But it's just the vileness of it all. You just think, why are you doing this?
We are part of this community, and what's really come out, and the reason I asked for that percentage is just to show how we need to behave as individuals and the community, because 80% is love, but most of this conversation unfortunately has that 20% we've spoken about is the hate, and that's how much effect that negativity is having on people. You know, you've just shown throughout this whole podcast as to how hard you work in all areas of your life and how you can't relax, and we really think you should, but that is the impact of negativity. It literally takes over a whole conversation when it's only 20% compared to that 8%. As we
Well,
come
and
to
also, I just wanted to say something earlier.
please
So,
do.
just being mindful. So, you said, how hard is it to be Ravi's wife? So, I earn a good salary, and I'm able to go out and buy nice things if I wanted to. I'm not materialistic, but if I wanted to. But every time I make a purchase, so I've got a nice car. That's my little thing. I have a nice car. But when people see me driving in it, or understand what car I've got, they automatically think, oh, that's off the Sangat's money. So I have to be really careful what I choose to buy, what I choose to wear, what I choose to drive.
It's double thinking everything that you're doing, isn't it?
Everything,
And seeing the repercussions,
everything.
which
I'm
is
checking
a
myself
horrible way to live.
all the time. Even the kids, I'm checking the kids all the time, saying, are they doing something that might be seen as,
That's stressful for the children, I would say.
they don't realize, but my son's into cars. He's got 4 BMWs, I think, but
You're
they're old.
talking to the right person. My husband's the same.
Oh, yeah.
Get
He's,
rid of them. Get rid of them. No,
but they're all like, he bought them old, very cheap, done them up. You know, they're very old.
yeah.
My mum said to my son once,
And they're gonna sell for a fortune. That's the line I get from my husband every time.
yes, apparently they
And then they can get sold cheaper, and then you're like, oh, well, that's the fortune that we're gonna get.
these cars is a deposit for a house, and I've yet to see it. But yeah, so we've got a number of cars. Ravi's also into his cars, but they're all like old and rusty,
Yeah.
you know. But and my mum said to my son, she said, people are going to say Khalsa Din Mundial called Jar Gara, you know.
You said, but they're old and they're rusty. Don't worry, we're good.
I know, right? Yes, they're BMWs, but they're old, and he's got them himself. He's
Yeah.
worked for them, but and my son came home and he said to me, he said, people don't think like that, do they? And I had to have that conversation with him. I said,
Oh
people know,
God.
they'll be
Yeah.
watching you all the time. And now when he's out, he knows that he's got to behave a certain way, and he's got to be seen who he's seen with, and yeah. And they don't even realize half of the time people will come back and say, oh, your son was doing this or that. So there is there is a lot of pressure. And I was saying, I do feel sorry for them at times, because I think they haven't had a normal life.
I think, like I said, just from everything you've said, we don't appreciate how much you as a family have to go through. You know, you do get a lot of respect. However, there is a big repercussion on your family life for that. And I think that's one thing that's really come out of in this episode. So we really do appreciate you opening up to
Yeah.
us as to what life it is like. And I know we weren't planning to go there, but it's a really important part, because behind the scenes, that is the truth. And that's something that isn't shared very often. As we come to an end of this episode, going back to the fact that it is about empowering women, especially the younger generation, both in their personal and private lives, what advice would you give to a young woman that is quite young, about to start her profession and, single, loving life? What's your advice to them?
Don't compromise. Don't ever
There we are.
compromise. Be the best you can. Always maintain integrity and be authentic. Don't ever compromise yourself for anybody, and don't dumb yourself down for anyone ever.
And that is a complete mic drop. You should have stopped at the compromise. That was a...
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Bal. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and finding out more about your life and your profession as well. So we really do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
That's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.